Hello, I'm Amy. I like to make vectors for microstock sites. Graphic River is my favourite. I like iStock, and I just recently joined Shutterstock as well. That's quite a nice site to use. So I made this design recently with a Valentine's theme, as it's Valentine's Day coming up. I made it in blue and pink, and today I'd just like to show you how I made the paper heart element that went into this design. So let's start by making a new document. These are my default settings. I'm just going to name it paper heart. I've got one artboard, 500 pixels square, color mode RGB, raster effect settings are high. Click OK. Now you might find it easier to follow along if your panels and tools are in the same place as mine. So just for your information, mine is set up like Photoshop. There's a whole bunch of choices in this little drop down menu, so like Photoshop is how I have it. So let's start by grabbing our rectangle tool. I'm going to click and drag, make a square the same size as the artboard. This is going to be a pink background. In the appearance panel over here, I can see I've got a black stroke we don't need. I'll click and drag it down onto the bin icon, and I'll highlight the fill, open the gradients panel, and add a radial gradient. Double click on the little square there. We want to input some RGB numbers, so change that to RGB, and I'll give you the numbers 252, 185 and 168. Just click anywhere to get out of that box. Double click the next gradient stop. Again, we want to enter RGB numbers 188, 76 and 92. And I'm just going to move this slider about to get the gradient looking how I want it. Okay, so that's our simple pink background. In the layers panel, I'll twirl out layer 1, and I can see the shape I just made. I'll lock that so I don't move it or drag it around by accident. And next we're going to draw a paper heart with the pen tool. So I'll grab the pen tool. I'm going to make use of this smart guide that appears when I hover over the center of the artboard. I'm going to click and drag out just to place an anchor point and pull out the handles. So click, drag, release, click, drag, release. The third anchor point, I'd like it to line up with the first one, so the smart guides are going to come in useful. Click and close the shape by clicking on the first point we made. In the appearance panel, I'm going to change the fill of our shape to white, just so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. Grab my zoom tool and zoom in on our object. I'll grab my direct selection tool, and this allows me to move the handles or the anchor points, and we'll just refine our shape. I'd like it to look like half of a heart. Okay, that'll do. So let's make sure we have our entire shape selected, and I'd like to duplicate it, so I'll use the shortcut key. I'm gonna hold down Control and tap C and F, so that makes a copy and then pastes it in front. With this copy, I'll go to the object menu, transform and reflect along the vertical axes, click OK. With my arrow keys, I'm just going to shuffle it to the right slightly, and I'd like to select both objects. I'll use my selection tool, drag a marquee around them both. Now just click on the left one and we get this thick blue line. This indicates that this shape is going to be the anchor when we align or distribute. So open the align panel, down here we've got the distribute commands. I'd like to distribute them with a 0 pixel spacing, so just click that little icon there, and there we go, we have a whole heart shape. Let's join the two shapes together so it's one object. Open the Pathfinder panel and use the unite command, and there we have our heart shape. I'd just like to reposition my heart on the centre of the artboard, so let's zoom out a bit, open the align panel, centre it vertically and horizontally, and let's make it a bit bigger to fill out the space. Hold down Shift and Alt as we drag out the corner of the box, and there we go, the shape will remain centred on the artboard. Now let's add some subtle gradients to make this heart look a bit like paper. With our fill selected in the appearance panel, open the gradient panel, add a linear gradient. Again, I'll give you the RGB numbers. Okay, the first set, 247, 247, 247. And the second set, 209, pardon me, I meant 232, 225, 225. I'll just drag the slider over slightly, well, about 50%. Okay, get rid of the gradient panel. Now duplicate the shape, hold down Control, tap C then F, copy the shape, paste it in front basically, grab the direct selection tool, click on the anchor on the right hand side, and up here use this little button to remove the anchor. Now we want a nice straight line down the middle, so let's drag in that handle and just drop it on top of the anchor. Open our gradient panel. Again, we want a linear gradient. I'll drag the slider back to its original place, and I'll give you the RGB numbers. It's 240, 240, and 240. And the next stop, 209, 194, 194. Okay, so our heart looks a bit more like paper, and it looks as if it's folded in the middle. Next we just need to add some shadows to make the heart look like it's being lifted up off the paper slightly. So to make our shadows, I'm going to start by duplicating my complete heart shape. If you don't want to use the shortcut keys, the layers panel is another handy way to do it. Find the shape, click on it, drag it down to the new layer icon, and it makes a duplicate. So select the bottommost of those two shapes, let's fill it in black, and with our direct selection tool, click on the anchor point and just drag it out to the right a bit. I'm going to imagine the light source is coming from the bottom left, so we want our shadows poking out to the top right. Okay, that'll do. No, there you go. Let's do the same with the top shape. Click, drag it down to the new layer icon. Now we have a copy. Select the bottommost of that copy. The bottommost of those two shapes. Change the fill to black. Select the anchor point in the middle there. And let's just make that shape peek out a little bit. There we go. Now let's work on softening the shadows a little bit. There's a few methods to do this, but I'm going to keep in mind that I may want to save this as an EPS 10. So the method I'm going to use is a gradient. Let's select the first shadow that we made and add a linear gradient. First up, make it black, and the second one, make it white. And in the appearance panel, let's click on that word opacity, and with this drop down menu we've got all different blend modes. If we choose multiply, that basically cancels out the white colour, and then in our toolbox we can select our gradient tool and we get this handy gradient bar. You can hover over the end and click and rotate the shadow in the direction that we want it. So yeah, that'll do. Actually, I'd like some more of the pink colour to come through from the background, so if we just double click the little black square on our gradient, and with the colour sliders let's just add some red, maybe a touch of blue, and that just gives our shadow a slight pinky tinge. Right, select our other shadow shape. I'm going to do that in the layers panel, and I'd like to add the same effect that I've just created on the first shadow. Now, to save going through the settings and doing it all manually, come to the toolbox and select your eyedropper tool, hover over the shape you'd like to copy from and just click on it, and there we go, it's copied the gradient and the blend mode. We can select our gradient tool, whoops, undo, and just drag the gradient how we want it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to call that done. Let's press on, try and keep the video under 15 minutes. So you can have any message you like on your heart. On mine, I'm going to select the type tool from the toolbox, click on the canvas, we'll get our flashing cursor, and I'm just going to add I love you. Change back to my selection tool. I'll change the font to a nice script font. You can do that from this panel over here, or from the type menu at the top. Let's find brush script. There we go. That'll do. Now I'm going to hold down the shift key as I click and drag out the box, make my type a bit bigger, and then using my arrow keys I'm just going to center it up on the heart. I'll just do it by eye. Okay, that'll do. Now if you were going to submit your design to a stock site, they like you to convert the type from a live editable type to shapes, basically. So you would do that by coming to the type menu and clicking on create outlines. So there we go. We've changed our live editable text to shapes. And I'd like to change the colour, so let's, in the appearance panel, double click on the word contents, highlight the black fill. In this case I want to change it to a pink colour from the background. Easiest way to do that would be grab your eyedropper tool from the toolbox, find a pink shade from the background that you want, hold down the shift key and just tap, click, and there we go, our text has changed to pink. Let's deselect so we can see that. And there we are, there's our paper heart with a nice I love you message. Let's just remind ourselves how I used mine. There we go. So yeah, you can apply this heart any way you like to any of your designs. I hope you learned a little something today. I hope I explained everything properly. If I didn't, please comment and I'll endeavour to answer any questions. So thanks a lot for watching, and enjoy making your paper hearts.